How's it going, super friends? Welcome back to my mustache. Today we're going to have a nice little laid-back chitty chat with David Vonner, the person who is at least in part responsible for the creation of this Batman figure and this Batman figure. That's right, both of those figures created quite the stir in the Instagramiverse, and I simply had to have a conversation with the man who created them. So, thank you so much for joining me today on the channel. There's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about those two oh so fantastic looking Batman figures, the classic oval and capsule belt, and that definitive black and gray with a solid belt, solid bat and pouches. So I guess the first question I would have for you is, why wouldn't Mattel pick up these two fantastic Batmans, definitive Batmans?
Well, it's kind of like a long story behind that,
Yeah.
but I try to, shorten it up. But basically this wasn't, I wasn't part of the DC team. I was part of the WWE team. And,
Right.
but originally, almost like a year and a half, almost 2 years prior to me joining Mattel, I interviewed for the DC team.
Okay.
Like that's where I wanted to be, and because like, that's where, for me professionally, like, that was something that was a goal of mine, but also too, like, just as a lifelong fan, and then, as someone working in this field, I just always wanted to be able to, contribute to that brand and everything, and just work on it and just like just indulge in it from a fan and a professional standpoint.
Yeah. And you can tell you're a fan, that's for sure.
Well, well, thank you. But I mean, so I wind up joining the Mattel on the WWE team. So now I can see what's going on with the team, but I'm not really, I'm not a part. I don't know what's going on. I get on like daily briefs or updates or the ins and outs with the licensee relationship. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it from up close, and I see how things are trying to be changed and try to be implemented, and I see some of the designs. But for me, it just was like, I appreciate the look of the DC Universe line, that Four Horsemen look, and like they're friends of mine and everything. But for me, I just kind of felt like that look just kind of went too far. It went too long.
Mm-hmm. Possibly overused.
Possibly overused, and I understand why. From a development standpoint, a design and development standpoint, from manufacturing, and I understand the need to reuse these parts over and over again.
Yeah, new tooling is expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
But you try to update it as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to try to offer like your whole new figure, your whole new body look or body style.
Yeah. Something of a bit more value too. Something that hasn't been quite seen before with that particular figure line.
Right. But also now that's just my philosophy.
Yep.
That's just my philosophy of how I approach it when we're dealing with, when we having a line that's dealing with multiple assortments, and we gotta, penny pinch or just budget wisely using our tooling and using our dollars, so I get it.
Yeah.
But, also too, I think that like with any look or with any line, you have, just your personal style, flair, or idea that you would like to implement into the line, and other designers have theirs, so I just felt like it was very much in the vein of the look that was kind of set forth, and that was that. But also other things that were kind of coming out of that, I just felt like a different look could be required. You know, so I kind of had this little secret, clandestine like thing going on with the guys that I know, and that's another thing too. I'm sorry if you can hear noise in the background.
No, I can't. Your mic is only picking you up, so you're good.
Okay, good. But that's another thing. Like being in the industry is like being in the movies, right? Like in the film industry, is like you have your cinematographer that you normally work with, or your stunt coordinator, your special effects guy, your lighting guy. It's like a whole crew behind the scenes, other than just the writer or producer or director.
Yeah, it's a team
It's
effort.
And also, since it's a team and you're familiar with the guys on your team, like it just so happens that the Gentle Giant guys are, guys that I'm familiar with. I've worked with them for years
Yep.
beyond Mattel, beyond Hasbro. Like I worked with them back from the Toy Biz days, so
Wow.
there's a long relationship there, and professional and personal. So that was just my preference in using them, as far like Beardy and Renee, the painter and sculptor, and having Adam on board, and we all just kind of put our minds together as far as fans, just lovers of this, because not just from a fan standpoint, but from the business aspect too, with the hopes that it could possibly just, it could do multiple things. Maybe if that be infused into the line, maybe it can inspire the line,
Well, I think a lot of us fans looked at those two Batman figures, and I think the general thought was, why wasn't this style what was used to try and reinvigorate the line? Because we know that the DC Universe Classics changed into, near the end of the DC Universe Classics and the DC Multiverse, when it changed into, they had more articulation for the sculpts, but the body proportions were kind of weird. They had kind of spindly legs, and I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the last few waves of Multiverse, and I loved the figures, but when I looked at their body proportions, I just thought, I felt like they were missing the mark as far as creating something that would reinvigorate the line, that would, redraw people's attention. And sure, a lot of people, there was a lot of hype about those figures. I mean, my videos that I made on those figures got really good views for the size of my channel at the time. But had the line have taken the direction of those two Batman figures that you and your friends created, maybe right now we would see Mattel still currently holding a 6-inch license for DC, because those two Batman figures, they had the accessories, and fans want the accessories. So they had the two extra hands. You had the cowl that hung down over the back there with the extra Bruce Wayne head. You had the grapple gun, and I believe there was a Batarang. So that's a reasonable amount of accessories, and if they were able to bring in your fantastic designs and base a new reimagining of the DC line, Superman, Green Lantern, say John Stewart, Wally West Flash, with maybe 3 other basic bucks, that they then add detail to, I feel like the line, man, even if they ended it, that last 6 waves would have gone out with such a bang. I mean, and it's a shame, because those two Batman figures, for many of us, would have been the definitive Batman. I mean, there's a reason why. I mean, customizing and customizing and customizing. A lot of people, and I'm not the only one saying this, a lot of people are saying, had your Batmans been released, they would have stopped customizing because they feel there wouldn't have been a need to customize anymore. That's how well received they are. And I feel like it's maybe a bit of a misstep on Mattel's part for not receiving your Batman figures better.
Well, I think that my approach to designing action figures is actually with the customizer in mind. I want the customizer to do their thing, because me personally, I'm influenced by customizers. It's to me, it's a yin and a yang, because we're all searching. Like a guy that I work with named Damon Nee, who's over at Marvel, and he said to me a long time ago, he said, we're all visual people. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So when you see it, when you it's one thing from talking about it or wishing it, but when you actually see the change, then you have to let that change occur. You know what I mean? And we can talk about it, we can hypothesize about it, but visually you just have to see it. You have to see it. Yeah. And I think this is one of the things that one of the shocking things about those figures, the fact that people saw what they always wanted to see, they just never saw it.
Yes, we wasted potential. That's what we saw. We saw two fantastic figures that could have, like I said, reinvigorated the line. And it was a lot of what you incorporated into your figures is what the fans were looking for. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And it never it never saw the light of it. I'm curious. Take me with you. What was it like? Did you present these figures to somebody at Mattel on the silver platter and say, look what we've done, we're fans, you didn't even have to commission or pay us, we just did it, what do you think?
Right.
Tell me what it was like. I want to be a fly on the wall.
It definitely was delivered on a platter. I wouldn't say it was a silver one, but it was definitely delivered on a platter. But I had it all done up and everything, and took some pictures of it and everything, and then I presented it to the director, and the reason why I presented it to him was because, I just kind of felt that, why present it to the ones who are designing it when it's constantly being designed the same way?
Yeah.
And so,
That's
so
fair enough.
So I presented it to the director in the hopes of maybe this can inspire the look of the line without kind of encroaching on anyone else's work, or kind of critiquing. I wanted the work to speak for itself. You know what I mean? And because it's very unorthodox, it's like, and also like that's how I'm accustomed to working. Like, I worked on the giant 19-inch Galactus and the Sentinel, and like those items weren't part of a line plan or anything. Like that was just me kind of looking around and saying, man, we need this. Like we need this update. So I just went and did it, and then we just galvanized everyone around us to do it. So that's kind of my approach. That's what I like to do, like shock and awe, throw something in there and say, like, let's go. Because this is how the creators used to do it. They didn't just sit around and just have all this data, kind of orchestrate the look of the line. They went and just went hog wild. Frank Miller did his thing. Todd McFarlane did his thing. That these creators did their thing to, impact the everything, and it was out of frustration or whatever reasons, but they just couldn't be held back. So
they became the change they wanted to see, and I think that's my idea. I think that's what you were trying to do. You saw some changes you wanted to see, and then you were like, well, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? And so you did it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So then what? So what was the So the fella saw the figures. What did he say to you? Like,
I mean, it was like raised eyebrow, like, wow, these look really, really nice. And then it was like, okay, and he took them, and I literally, that was the last time I saw them. And it happened so long ago, I can't even actually tell you the exact time, but it was a long time ago.
Wow.
And but I mean, at least prior to the losing of the license, right? So
they're locked away in a vault somewhere.
But again, like there's a lot that comes into play with their licensee relationship, and I knew that they were that it was rocky, but I also know that I could have potentially been an asset to the team because I know certain individuals over there, so I just felt as though that I could have, along with designing something a little bit better, maybe orchestrating a different type of relationship that maybe could have been utilized a little bit more, strongly, so, but I didn't know any of this was, the ins and outs of because I'm overseeing the WWE line, so that's,
you're in a different sector, right?
It's a whole nother world in and of itself. There's always things that's going on. And actually, I tried to actually infuse a little bit of WWE and DC, and just because I'm just a fan of the two, and how can we just somehow work together, and that, so, time went on, and then I just, news travels that we lost a license, and then, then Spin Master has a license, and then McFarlane has a license.
Split up. Yep.
But then it was like, maybe we can, maybe it's not a done deal. Maybe we're still in the game, and so it was, for me, just a lot of uncertainty. But then, after that, it was like, from the blowback of that, it was like the teams on dispersed and everything. The team was broken up. So manager from the DC team became the manager of the WWE team. So, it was
the P game. It's the shuffle the P around under the pods game.
Yeah. And so that just became kind of strange to me that, we kind of were in a position where now we're taking design direction from the same members that were part of losing the license. Like at least that's how I took it.
No, yeah, you know what? I feel like I said, I feel like Mattel may have been able to save themselves from losing the license at least for a few more years, maybe 5 years or whatever, or maybe they could have at least retained the license to do 6-inch scale and said that it was for boys action, right? So it was for kids, and then maybe McFarlane could have gotten a 7, because McFarlane's not really doing a whole lot with the DC license in the way of the broader DC universe anyway. He's basically just, we're really, as more and more waves from McFarlane begin to be revealed, it's like, okay, he really is bat-centric, like 98%. So at this point, it's like, perhaps it would have been more beneficial had those figures been taken seriously. Mattel could have still had the license, maybe.
That McFarlane is taking. I think that the post of McFarlane is a needed, an injection in the arm.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely needed, for those type of looks. But I also think that there is I'm also a classic comic book guy, so. Me, I want to see that classic, style, but updated as well, But as far as Mattel goes, and the license, the DC license, I really think it's like a bigger issue than just that license. I think it's just a bigger, philosophical and cultural thing at Mattel as to the reason as to why things are kind of happening the way they are.
Yeah,
and,
I guess so. Sorry, I need to cut you off.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, well, because Mattel, they're like a larger company, right? They're like one of the bigger players, while companies like McFarlane, and McFarlane is getting a lot of steam. He's getting licenses out the wazoo as of late. And the same thing can be said for, say, NECA. They tend to be smaller companies, and they're ran more or less by fans of each individual license, whereas Mattel, they're a toy company that their main objective is to sell product. Yeah,
but so is Hasbro.
Yeah, that's true. But Hasbro's been doing fantastic stuff with I love their G.I. Joe stuff. I've been loving their new G.I. Joe stuff. Mm-hmm. I can't really say much of their Marvel Legends because I don't own any of them, but
I really think it's a matter of, thinking and philosophy, and that creates a culture, and then within that creates design language and everything else.
Yeah.
So it's like, I understand, and for me, looking at it as a fan, and being in touch with the fan base, hearing them, understanding that, being part of that culture, I would have shook up the DC team a long time ago. And I would have went with a different approach a long time ago, because this is what the fans have been saying. This is kind of like, retail's kind of been saying the same thing. It all kind of reflects, Well, I think that certain changes would have been implemented a long time ago. Selfishly, I believe that the change should have began with me, but I think I should have been part of that change, and I wasn't. And I think that with hindsight being 2020, is just a culmination of everything, and it's no longer there. And I think that's a blow. That was a blow to me, because I'm like, this is Mattel. Like, this is the home of all these legacy toys and brands.
Hot Wheels, Barbie.
Toy box.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, what better place would this brand be other than Mattel? Like, why can't we give it the attention that it deserves?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. The thing is, there was a lot of people that, for example, like, you talk about the changes, right? And philosophy. A good philosophy would have been to really try to listen to what a lot of the collectors were saying wave after wave. And that this probably it's one of the reasons, I think, why things went a little bit, boobs up with the DC license. One of the reasons, because a lot of fans were saying, we want double jointed knees, we want double jointed elbows, we want more articulation with these figures. And it really took Mattel a long time to start implementing that with their figures, because they had basic molds that they would use all the time because they were trying to save money. And I don't know what was going on in the back end, why it was so, they had to save so much money that they couldn't just go, let's just make basic bulky, medium-sized, skinny, and small double-jointed knees for the guys, for example. Why that didn't happen sooner? Because I know a lot of people in the forums were like, yeah, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not going to buy any more Mattel.
I mean,
because they felt like they weren't being listened to, I think is what it is.
What you also saw in the forum as well, like particularly, like I'm speaking from a fan, you know, so what you saw from the forums as well before I got there was a lot of conflict between certain individuals on the DC team and the fans. And to me, that is not, I don't believe in that philosophy. I think that you should have a conflict with the fans. I feel as though you should educate your consumer, you know, and McFarlane does a fantastic job at that. NECA does a great job at that. They educate their consumer. Now, the end result, you may not agree with it, but at least you understand have a clear understanding of the rhyme and the reason. For
their choices,
Their choices. And I felt as though from a standpoint that there was a lot of conflict between the DC team at Mattel and the fan base. And me viewing that, I was just never one to think that should be a way to do it.
Yeah, well, fans had the questions, right? Why? Like, why this? Why that? And then the answers were never really given. And so again, that leads to fans feeling like they're not being responded to, and they're like, well, why is there a forum? You know, for example, on Maddie here, why is there a forum? If they're not really going to answer our questions, and they'd say, hey, I'm asking again, you'd see them asking the same question, and then they just wouldn't get answered. And
it's like a kid. You're a father, you have children, and the children have no point of reference. So everything is new. So when you do a magic trick for your kid, the first thing they're going to ask is, how'd you do that?
Yeah. True.
You know, so it's kind of like the same thing in the toy industry. Like, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of mystery. So when guys are have been lifelong fans of like DC and Marvel and all these characters, and then they finally get to see it in figural form, because we're all visual people, back to Damon Lee's statement, you know, it's like, you expect it to be a certain way. You expect these things to function a certain way because that's the trick.
Yeah.
You know, now it's like, now you can engage with the magician.
Yeah.
You know, can you do this? And how did you do that? And the magician is going to be like, well, you know, screw you, or take it, or, you know, whatever. And they want to, that person wants to engage with them. And to me, in the magician's standpoint, it's like, you got to educate them.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily give up the trick, but at least educate them in a way to do the sleight of hand another way, so you can kind of get them over here. But I just kind of felt like their interaction was never one that I felt was a positive one.
It wasn't beneficial. That's for sure. I stopped commenting in that forum, for example. And just because it can get so, actually, let's back up. Let's broaden that statement to that kind of comment. I don't usually comment almost anywhere, just because I know that it can become very heated very quick. People get very, very upset very quickly. And so I just learned to stay out of the fray and just let people do their thing, which is why I try to not harbor that here as much as I possibly can. I do share my opinion from time to time, and it gets me in trouble. People don't like it when you have an opinion, but you know, it is what it is. So I just want to make sure I get all my questions here. You've actually done a great job of answering a lot of the stuff I was going to ask you. So, but now I got this page of Doctor's Chicken Scratch here. I want to just have a little response.
Figure gate. Batman gate.
No, you answered everything. I guess the final thing is, I was going to ask you if you had them, but obviously you don't. Mattel still has them, right?
Yeah. I mean, a Mattel, they're in the hands of a Mattel representative. Now, is it the director? Is it in the office that's guarded by the security? Like, hey, you leave it up to the imagination, but it's in the Mattel clutches.
Yeah. How did you guys do the head sculpts, by the way? You guys totally started from scratch with those head sculpts.
Yeah, I mean, like again, like everyone was saying, like it looks like Guardian and all this other stuff from Marvel. But again, you have to understand that that's what we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when John Byrne left Marvel and went over to draw Superman. It looked
Yep.
very, very much like a Marvel book because it was John Byrne's hand.
Yep.
So that was kind of like the style that we were playing in, and also too, being that we also worked close together in WWE, it was like it was an extension of working together very closely and also working with what we're accustomed to working with.
Yeah.
And this is why you got the figure that it looked. And again, this was like, our representation, with the hopes that it could be utilized in some manner or form. And like, to be quite honest with you, I knew that there was no chance in hell that it would get into the line for a multitude of other reasons, really.
Yep.
That still boggle my mind or play out in my mind, but
Like
I
territorial, right? Like maybe the line belonged to someone else, so yours could never.
a whole lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So I kind of I knew that there was like a slim chance, but I also hope that maybe this could spark a bigger conversation.
I guess on a positive note, if someday maybe Mattel ever ends up getting the license back for whatever reason, they've got your figures on file. So I mean, I guess there's a tiny bit of a golden.
But I think maybe if it inspires someone else, maybe not even to do a Batman, but it inspires the next kid to be able to design a toy because they didn't know it was going to happen that way. Like for me, like that's what I enjoy, man. Like I enjoy the like I said, the magic trick. I love the look on everyone's face when they're like, "Holy cow!"
Yeah.
Like love that. That's why I do what I do.
I love customizing. I love doing it. I love it. But anyway, I suppose it is. You know what? It's one for the history books, and no sense in dwelling over what didn't happen and lamenting it too much. But I'm certainly thankful that you shared those images with us.
I am too, because look, we never would have had a conversation.
No, we wouldn't. I wouldn't even. Honestly, I wouldn't have existed. I live down in my basement. I am in my basement all the time. That's it. I don't talk to anybody. So.
But I mean, I love DC. I love DC fans. I never would have had the opportunity to even engage with you or the community that you represent had this not even been done. So like that's the joy of toys, man. Even if we have it, to the kid across the street that don't, it's like, yo, man, that's cool. Let's play together. Let's talk. Because we understand each other from a different standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
We got a mutual understanding, a mutual love. So, and we're all hurting. We all wish we had that toy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
GI Joes was a big one. I had a whole buttload of GI Joes, and I had friends that had Joes. Pardon?
Flag?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch you.
Did you have the U.S. flag, the USS flag?
No, I never had it. Never had it. Right?
See?
And that was one. I never had that. I never had the spaceship, the shuttle.
Yep.
Never had the shuttle, right? And I never had the snake eyes with the two big knives across the chest, and that was the snake eyes. But I had friends that had it, so I would go and we would play together, and he'd go, "Well, I want to use your General Hawk." And Destro, well, can I use your snake eyes? And then we would do the old switcheroo. Or with the Secret Wars figures, I never had Captain America or Spider-Man, but I had Wolverine and Magneto, and so we would do the old swapperoo while we played, right? There was definitely a very community-based thing. I Ninja Turtles and Superpowers, same thing.
Yep.
Loved it. Well, anyway, David, it has been super, super fantastic having you on the show. A lot of people had a lot of questions, and you've answered all of them way more better than I could have asked them. You just fluidly went through them. So I'm really thankful that we had this chance to chat. I had a chance to get to know you, and that you came on the channel today. Yeah,
man. I'm happy to be here, man. I'm happy to call you a friend. Let's chat some more. When all this is over, man, I hope to hang out with you at a Comic-Con, man.
Yeah, I hope to get there. Let's see.
Continue to build and broaden the community too, man.
Yeah. I say let's go for it. As soon as the coof is finished, maybe I'll be able to make it out to SDCC sometime. I'm trying to make that pilgrimage. So if I ever get there,
where are you now?
Oh, I'm in Canada. I'm in Ontario.
I thought I heard that in your accent.
Yeah, I'm in Ontario, Canada. Don't let the Hawaiian shirt fool you.
Oh, no.
That's just my bizarre fashion sense. I thought that I would wear something bright and colorful.
No, you look beautiful. You look beautiful. I dig it.
Well, thank you. Mustache and all.
Yeah, man, you like a superhero. I mean, with the primary, the red and the blue and everything. And also, too, a fun fact, I actually suffer from color blindness, so I have my special Enchroma glasses that allow me to see a broader color spectrum. So, that's why everything pops in the background, man. You look beautiful, and everything looks super cool, man. So, yeah, I dig it.
I thought those were just fashionable glasses because you look spectacular in them. I didn't know that they were chroma. Well, there you go. I learn something new every day.
Yep.
Anyway, I thank you for joining me, and I will see you around the interweebs.
Take care, brother.
Bye-bye.